Argo Blockchain Chief Executive Peter Wall joins All About Bitcoin to talk about renewables-focused cryptocurrency mining. Peter, welcome.
Hi, Galen. Nice to be on the show.
So, Peter, Argo is calling itself the first publicly traded cryptocurrency miner to become climate positive. What exactly are you doing to merit that label?
Yeah, so climate positive essentially means that we've gone beyond net zero. So in other words, we've mitigated any emissions that we've projected for 2021, and even we've gone back and mitigated any 2020 emissions, and then we've even gone beyond that. So we've reached carbon, neutrality, and then we've become carbon negative. And we've done that.
Yeah, when you say mitigate, do you mean carbon offsets, or are these changes in your operations?
Yeah, so the first focus for us is always to locate our operations in areas where there's lots of renewable power. So we've been mining in Quebec for 3.5 years. We love operating there because it's 100% hydro. We're building out a facility in West Texas where it's primarily wind. Over 90% of the power on the grid there is coming from wind. We've been working at Core Scientific's facilities. They have a big focus on using renewable power when necessary or when possible. So the first piece is always to locate yourselves in areas of high renewable power. And then when you're not able to do that, there's situations where, for instance, some of Core's facilities are kind of using parts of the grid that are mixed. Then you move to mitigation measures. And the way you do that is you measure how much emissions, are coming out of the power that's being generated to power your machines. And you mitigate that by using offsets. And then you also look at what's called scope 3. So that would be scope 2, that's indirect, and that's coming from your power source. And then you look at your scope 3 emissions, and that's coming from the value chain, from the supply chain. And then you kind of take into account, how much emissions are coming from the transportation and installation of machines and manufacturing of machines. So it's kind of a full scope that you need to look at, scope 1, 2, 3. But it obviously starts with making sure that whenever possible, you're using power that's coming from renewable sources.
What percentage of the power that you're using does come from renewables? Can you estimate?
Yeah, so right now we're at about 75% from renewables. Like I said, all of our power in Quebec is from renewables. All of our power in Texas, or the majority of our power, over 90% of our power, will be from renewables in Texas. And then we do have some machines that are hosted at Core Scientific, and they're about 50-50 in terms of what's coming from carbon-free sources and what's coming from carbon-generating sources.
So environmental, social, and governance, ESG, was front and center at the start of the bearish turn in crypto markets that began last quarter. Do you think it's possible that renewables-focused mining could push the Bitcoin price up further?
Yeah, it's a good question. I generally don't like to speculate on what the price of Bitcoin is or where it's going to go. For us, what's important is that we're operating in a way that's in line with our values and that we think makes smart business sense. And that's to be an ESG-friendly miner. That's going back to the start. We were an ESG miner, Galen, before it was cool to be an ESG miner because we were located in Quebec. We were talking about it, thinking about it. This year, we've gone further. We've launched a climate strategy. We've taken these mitigation measures. And I think in general, it's positive for the space. Look, people are going to mine Bitcoin. We know it's a great thing to mine. We believe it's a great business. We all believe it's an appreciating asset. What's important is that it's done in a sustainable, renewable way. And we feel like we're the leaders in that in terms of publicly traded cryptocurrency mining companies.
So hash rate is recovering, and my colleague David Pan has a story today on a recovery in the price of Bitcoin mining equipment and what Chinese miners are doing with their machines and infrastructure after the Beijing crackdown that really hit full stride in May. Mining seems to be entering a new phase at this time on an altered playing field somewhat. Where are we going from here?
Yeah, it's been such an interesting year. It started with this great bull run, and machine prices went up alongside of the increase in the price of Bitcoin. And then, we had this, initial accident in China that knocked some hash rate down. And then we had the ban in China, which again knocked hash rate down. So you went from a situation where machines were really hard to get to all of a sudden, it wasn't machines that were hard to get, it was infrastructure that was hard to get. And so now you're seeing some hash rate recover, but it's still pretty slow. It's not nearly what came off. And that's because infrastructure takes time. We're building out a facility in Texas. It's going to take a year from start to finish. And we had a jump start because we acquired a facility or a project that was already underway. So I don't think we're going to see, the 180 exahash where we were prior to to the Bitcoin ban in China. I don't think we're going to see that until well into 22 in terms of that level of hash rate coming back. And then don't forget, you have all the machines that have been ordered by, both public and private miners around the world. Those machines need somewhere to go and need to come online. So it's a super interesting time. For sure, machine prices are recovering. Is that, a false recovery and we're going to see them drop again? It's hard to say. And certainly our team is following it all very closely.
Quick last question, please. Argo is listed on the London Stock Exchange and the over-the-counter markets, and you've announced plans to list on the NASDAQ. With so many ways for investors to gain exposure to Bitcoin and more emerging by the day, what is the specific appeal of investing in a publicly held mining company?
I think it's the same reason why people mine, people invest in gold miners. You buy, the picks and shovels. You don't necessarily buy the asset. And we trade, our short-term and medium-term, or in the past, short-term and medium-term, we've certainly been correlated with the price of Bitcoin. So I think the value is in investing in a company that you can put into your 401k or that you can hold in your stocks that often outperforms the asset. And that's, been the case for a lot of crypto miners in the last year. And then in the long term, investing in an early stage company, like ourselves, who are pushing the boundaries of blockchain technology. First in mining and then in other areas. So it's like owning a .com company at the start of the internet. And that's kind of what I would compare it to.